Hi, this is Bill Raymond, and welcome to my next video in creating a Docker AI and machine learning image. In this video, we're going to deal with two different things. One, if you've been following this video series, you're familiar with that annoying pop-up dialog that comes up and says, "Do you want to install this extension?" The other is that when you're working with Python, there are some really incredible extensions Visual Studio Code provides. They will help you improve your Python development experience, and they're really useful. And there's many other extensions that you can also install. So what I'm going to do is help you get rid of those annoying pop-ups, but also help you install some of the basic extensions that you might want to use. Let's get started. When we originally set up Visual Studio Code, we went to the extensions and installed the dev containers extension and the Docker extension. As a matter of fact, the Docker extension even has an icon with this whale right here on the toolbar in Visual Studio Code. Now let's see what happens when I open the dev container. I'll do my Command-Shift-P or Control-Shift-P and type open folder in container and press return. I'll select my AI Docker image folder and open it. Once it's open, you'll notice that that whale icon is no longer there. That's because sometimes Visual Studio requires you to install extensions directly into the container itself, not just locally on your computer. So how do we address that? Well, I'm going to walk you through that now. First of all, you'll notice that there's this .dev container folder on your Explorer area here. So expand that, and you'll see this thing called devcontainer.json. Now, a JSON file can be used in many ways. One is to configure tools, and the other is to maybe use it to transfer data back and forth. In this case, this is going to be used to configure our dev container in Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to select this item, and you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of different things here. But the only things that are active are these things that aren't in the green in my screen. Everything else has these forward slashes in them. These are ways to say that they are commented out. So kind of like when we were working with our Docker file and we press the pound sign in order to make that a comment, JSON uses two forward slashes. So if you notice here, there's a whole bunch of them, but we're going to focus on this one, which is customizations. So locate customizations and just press the backspace key or delete key until customizations no longer is commented out. So get rid of the two forward slashes. Now you're going to have something that looks like this. And the customizations is going to have these squiggly lines under it. It's telling us that there's an error. What's the error? Well, it turns out that in JSON, every section needs to be separated by a comma. Now that we've made this a section, we need to come back up here to the top part. You can see the last section here is that build with those brackets. That's a section. So I'm just going to put comma to the right of that ending bracket. And if I come down here to customizations, you will see that it's no longer squiggly marked. It no longer has an error. Now you might have a comma like this at the end of your customizations. That might also have a squiggly under it. If it does, press the delete key and get rid of that. All right, now I'm going to take my cursor and put it in between those two customizations brackets and press return. Now I'm going to type Control space on my keyboard, and you'll notice two type ahead options come up. I'm going to choose VS Code and press return. Now VS Code is going to put two more brackets in there. I'm going to press return again. And now I'll press Control space once more. And you can see here's a bunch of different options. Select the one that says extensions and press return. Now here's where we're going to install our extensions into our dev container, our Docker container. So I'm going to press return once again. You might be thinking, oh, if I just press Control space, I can select those extensions, right? No, you kind of get a whole bunch of stuff that's kind of nonsense. So I'll press the escape key here. The next thing that we need to do is find the extensions that we want to install. So I'm going to come over here to the extensions icon in the toolbar, the thing that looks like puzzle pieces, and I'm going to search for extensions and type the word Docker and press return. I'm going to expand this just a little bit so it's easier to see and select Docker. Make sure this is Docker from Microsoft. And once you found that correct one, look down here towards the bottom. You'll see details, feature contributions, etc. But then there's this categories area here on the bottom right. Scroll down, and it might be visible on your page, I don't know, and locate the identifier. What we're going to do is select that identifier, do a copy, so Command-C or Control-C, then go back to our devcontainer.json file that we already have open in another tab. And underneath that extensions, I'm going to create 2 double quotes. And inside of there, I'm going to paste that identifier that we just copied. And I'm using Command-V or Control-V. Now I want to also put the dev container in here. So I'm going to type comma and press return. We'll come back over here to the extensions and we'll search for dev container. And once we locate the Microsoft one, we'll select that. Come back down here to identifier and copy that one. Then we'll go to dev container and I'll do the same double quotes again and paste that in. Now there's a few other extensions I want to install, but right now let's just make sure that this works. So I'm going to save my devcontainer.json file. It will ask if I want to rebuild the container. I'll say yes, rebuild please. And we'll wait a moment for that to rebuild. Now, how do I know that this actually got installed? Well, notice here under this local installed, I have some extensions that I installed. I have things that you may not see there. But then you can see under dev container, there is our dev containers and our Docker extension. So they are installed now. That means that if I come over here to the Explorer and I select Docker file, I should not get that annoying pop-up dialog. And I don't. Also, notice that over here on the toolbar, that Docker whale icon is back. So we're good now. We have installed 2 extensions for Docker and dev container. Well, why don't we take this opportunity to add some more helpful extensions? So what I'll do is close the Docker file, go back to extensions, and I'm going to type the word Python in here. And I'm going to locate Python IntelliSense by Microsoft. Now I want to point out something. This video may actually change over time. And maybe Microsoft has added some of these extensions directly into Visual Studio Code. So if you can't find it, you might find it and it says that it's no longer available. You might need to find a different extension, or it might say it's built in. Just letting you know about that. Okay, so we're going to get this Python by Microsoft, and we're going to get the identifier and copy that. Then I'll go back to the dev container again, create a comma at the end of that last line, press return, our 2 double quotes, and paste that in, another comma, and another return. Now I'll come over here to the extensions library again, and I'm going to type Jupyter Notebook. And that's Jupyter with a Y. Now what this will do is it will actually, and this is from Microsoft, what this will do is install a bunch of extensions that support Jupyter Notebooks. And we'll talk about that later. Now I'll just go back down here once again to the identifier, and I will copy and paste that identifier, copy from there, double quotes, and I don't think I copied all of the text. So let me just come back in here, just make sure it's copied and paste that in. There we go. Now, because this is the last one that I'm going to add, I'm not going to put a comma at the end of that quote. This is what our file should look like. I'm going to save the file once more and allow it to rebuild once more. Now that our container has been rebuilt, we can just look here and see what extensions are installed. In our dev container, you can see Jupyter Notebooks installed, a whole bunch of other things as well. So that's good. We now have a working Docker dev container that does not provide those nasty dialog boxes every time we open it up. And we've installed some tools that will help us further down the line. I'll go ahead and close the dev container file, and I will also close my remote connection. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more like this, please like, comment, and click the bell to support my channel.